This time, GB Olympics, going for gold.
No more, 'cause I'll stay a wild rover forever and more.
Hello and welcome to by far the greatest team, a football podcast in which fans attempt the seemingly impossible to rank once and for all the greatest football teams of all time. My name's Henry Kelly. No, it isn't. It's Graham Dunn, and I am here putting the case for Oxford United, and joining me in the data studio across the way from me, it's Jamie Rooney.
Graham, you've completely bamboozled me. I can't get Henry Kelly out of my head now, and I keep saying to myself, who am I? Who am I?
For those people unfamiliar, it does seem unlikely. I mean, most of our audience, I think, are quite highly familiar with Going for Gold. But looking back on it now, that was a quiz show that was based on the UK being part of the European Union. That was its thing.
It's a knockout European highbrow. It was fantastic. It was daytime TV at prime period daytime TV.
Yeah.
And you're right. It was, it was always, and then, something that we're going to pick apart here would be the complexities of, what is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, to give its ridiculously long official title, because you have competing people from England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland or Ireland against the Germans, the Swiss, and Margaret from Spain, and all that type of stuff. Henry Kelly, absolute brilliant. Going for gold. They probably did bring that back, did they? Or did I miss that? It feels like it's too good not to bring back.
Channel 5 had a go with it, with John Suchet as the old newsreader. Wow, this seems extraordinary. Okay, now I cannot believe this is right. So the theme music composer seems to be, there are two credits for this, Sandy McClelland and Hans Zimmer. I mean, Hans Zimmer is like...
Hans Zimmer, sure. I can actually still remember it. The lyrics is like, the heat is on, the time is right. It's up to you to take your chance when you're going for gold.
So, yeah, Hans Zimmer, one of Zimmer's most durable works from his time in the UK, was the theme song for the television games show Going for Gold, which he composed with Sandy McClelland. Zimmer said, "Going for gold is a lot of fun. It's the sort of stuff you do when you don't have a career yet." I just felt lucky because the thing paid me for rent for so long. And Zimmer went on to much. Anyway, that's been by far the greatest team. We can end the podcast here. We're not going to top nothing you're going to say. It's going to top the Hans Zimmer. And it always, of course, I think it came on immediately after the lunchtime Neighbours, the 1:30 Neighbours. I think it was on straight after that slot. And then you kind of knew you hadn't done much with your day when you carried on watching and got to the repeat of Neighbours at about 5:30 and kind of wasted. There we go. We're going for gold. A bit of memory there. We're talking about Going for Gold because it was being based on the European Union. A very popular concept for a quiz show. Obviously, Going for Gold had a sort of play to the idea of the Olympics, and we are going to be looking back at sort of, this is kind of the first in our theme of teams that aren't really teams. On the one hand, we're going to be doing these over the coming weeks. We have Thames Valley Royals coming up. We have our Euro Barbarians team, both teams that aren't really teams. And to some extent, the GB Olympics is another one of those. We're going to be having a look at them. Obviously, we've been spurred into that by the current Olympics, which has, at time of recording, just this minute finished. Jeremy, did you enjoy it?
I did. I didn't think I was going to be watching much of it. I kind of went into it thinking, it's not football, so it's not cycling, so other than the bits that were cycling, of course. But yeah, I did find myself quite compelled, and I've been missing it this week. Wake up to the Olympics and, getting my download in terms of what's coming ahead and seeing sports I would never normally watch, like climbing and skateboarding and break dancing. I mean, that's really the type of sport I think I should try next.
Yeah, definitely. So the one for me was definitely the modern pentathlon. A lot of fun watching that. So in the modern pentathlon, which credit to my son Andy, who noted it did have the feel of an event where they'd forgotten they had to hold it, and they did it all at the equestrian centre. So everything looked a bit ramshackle. Basically, because it began, we'd seen some fencing, and we hadn't realised it was connected, and there was some fencing, and then there was some swimming. But the swimming was like outdoor, not in an Olympic-sized pool. It was just like a swimming pool you get in your hotel. They're having to do loads and loads of turns. And this is a bit odd. I think we'd missed the show jumping part of it, which also makes it, but we did get there for the finale, which of course is the brilliant cross-country run, or I think it's 3,000 meters maybe, combined with the laser clay pigeon or laser clay shooting, pistol shooting. So it's an extraordinary thing where they have to do a circuit, then hit a target 5 times, then go around again, and then another 5 times. It was a bit chaotic, yeah, all running around the same thing. I like to think that, I mean, what I was reminded of this was that presumably there was a time when they used real pistols during this, but just laser ones in this case. And it was quite spectacular to watch, but probably our favourite bit about it was that there's a kind of time penalty. So the final starts are all based on, where they finished, and the last person started about 5 minutes into the race. I mean, they've been around the track 2 or 3 times by the time the last person started.
It's like demoralising.
Yeah, so probably not going to catch that one up, but so a lot of fun.
It embodies the Olympic spirit. I couldn't help in preparation of this one, because obviously the Olympics has been, the modern Olympics, as we should call it, I guess, has been going since 1896. I couldn't help but look at some of the defunct sports that are no longer played, and there's some interesting ones. You've got your local sports. So Melbourne would have had the Aussie rules in it. In LA, 1932, there was American football, which is really interesting, and because there wouldn't have been many teams, even the United States, that had been playing American football that long, I don't think, mostly state teams. But there were a couple that really stood out. And bring these ones back. Tug-of-war and hot air ballooning. I mean, these are 2 sports that they need to think about bringing back. I mean, tug-of-war would be absolutely fantastic. Can you imagine that?
Tug-of-war. It's a long time since I've seen televised tug-of-war. That's really quite special. That's kind of school fate territory, isn't it?
It is. But the hot air ballooning one's fantastic because they were giving out goals for different disciplines. So one of them would be distance travelled, one of them would be a height travelled, and I think one of them went as high as Everest, which is fantastic. My favourite one was, but my favourite gold, I say gold, they were, this predates, because it was in 1900, the Paris Olympics, the first time Paris hosted the Olympic Games, the second Olympics. There was no such thing as gold and silver and bronze medals. They didn't exist. So they were given out some kind of diplomas or other types of awards. But you would have got an award in hot air ballooning in the Paris 1900 Olympics for landing in the right place.
Which feels like the very minimum of what you should be doing.
But I have to say, Graham, my favourite defunct Olympic sport, which I think would be quite interesting bringing back, and it doesn't include the arts, which happened for a period of time. So, golds were given out for literature and painting and sculpture. Fascinating stuff, probably not Olympic stuff. In LA in 1984, solo synchronized swimming was an event.
Yeah, that does feel difficult to achieve. Solo synchronized swimming.
Apparently the competitors had to synchronize the music. I think that's just called dancing with rhythm, isn't it? It's not something I'm totally proficient with, but I understand the concept that you just get things in time.
Oh, that's brilliant! Too good. Excellent. So we're going to be looking at the football, and we're looking at a side now. They obviously haven't been among the more recent winners, or in fact even recent entrants, other than in 2012. There's, I mean, Spain obviously won it this time around, continuing their sort of golden summer, but has become something of a strong point of the South American side, so Brazil and Argentina. Before that, Cameroon and Nigeria. Nigeria, 1996. JJ Okocha's in that team. Daniel Amakachu. Manu, aged 39 by then. So some great sides. But back in the very early days of football in the Olympics, it was GB. But was it GB? It was just England. Is that right?
Yeah, it's absolutely right. And we can fill in the gaps as to why it was just England, but they were representing the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. But because of the complexities, not just in football, not just in sport, but in general, of this very confusing and identified crisis country that we live in, England did compete for Team GB and Northern Ireland in 1908, the London Olympics, and then again in 1912, the Stockholm Olympics, as the football representatives. And they did well. They, not to jump to the end deliberately, but they did win the gold medal. And that's why we're featuring on this particular podcast. They won the gold medal in 1908 and they won it in 12. I think what we're going to try to do is kind of pick apart what football was in that period, teams they were up against in that period. But before we go into that, here's a question for you. How do you feel about football being in the Olympic Games? It's a topical question. What we should stress is that we're talking about men's Olympic football, not women's Olympic football, which is a slightly different question, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think you'd struggle to find an argument that says that football is lacking exposure and needs another tournament. I think that would be probably my take on it. It feels quite difficult to get in. I don't know. I'd struggle to see that it's really any purpose for it. Are you going to make the case for it?
Well, I think you answered it in the first point. I think it's football's popularity that is the reason why the IOC decide that it has to be part of the Olympic Games. And in fairness, football has been part of every single Olympic Games apart from 1930. And in 1930, FIFA had just created their own football tournament. So in the 1932 Olympics, they didn't want football to be there to potentially deflect from their own showcase tournament, the World Cup, which started in 1930. But I think football's popularity, because the crowds, the IOC know that you're going to get the numbers. It's the most watched sport in the Olympic Games in terms of audience participation. You've got more people watching football than you have any other sport because of the volume of fixtures that you have. Plus the fact they take the games around the country. We've just watched the Paris Olympic Games, but there was football going on in Lyon and Nantes. So you've got different parts of France. They're able to get that little flavour of the Olympic Games that potentially couldn't get to Paris for the main tournament or Marseille for the sea events.
Yes, definitely so. In 1908, is that the first time that that football's in the Olympics?
No, football officially is recognised as an Olympic sport in the 1908 Olympics. That was held in London. And because football was quite big at the time in the British Isles, in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, it was the most popular sport in terms of audience participation. Had an official affiliations in England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So naturally, the United Kingdom decided to include football into the Olympic Games. It's worth pointing out that FIFA had only been formed 4 years before that. FIFA came into existence in 1904, so 4 years prior. So it was still kind of shaping itself in terms of a kind of an organised sporting group. The FA was still very much seen as the prime and main association for global football, even though football wasn't massively global at this point.
We get to the 1908 Olympics. Is there anyone for GB to play in 1908?
So, I mean, if we go back in time, so in 1896, football wasn't officially recognised, but there were in Athens. But there is kind of some notes that Danish 11 played a Greek or an Athens 11 in an unofficial tournament. But the 1900 Olympics, football again did take place in Paris, but again it wasn't recognised as an official tournament, and club sides took part, and the champions were Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Retrospectively, they've been given that. At the time, the champions were Upton Park FC, who beat Club Français in the final.
Yeah, so we've covered Upton Park before, haven't we? This does from what I do remember that coming up on a previous one. So by the time we get to 1908, there are, well, I suppose firstly, so it is just an English side essentially, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, this is where it gets really complex, because to be competing in the Olympics as a sport, you need an official association. Now, Great Britain and Northern Ireland doesn't have an official football association. It's divided into the four countries of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So, I mean, this is massively complex. And so and because football was going to be a sport at the London Games in 1908, GB had to have some representative, and GB were by far and away the best team. And because of the nature of the country that we live in, and definitely from a historical perspective, we haven't always agreed. So whilst Great Britain was represented, England had a strong amateur football scene that was going on at that particular moment. So England supplied all of the players in the 1908 Olympics. In fact, FIFA recognised the 1908 Olympic champions as England, whilst the IOC put the United Kingdom. And it gets even more confusing than that, because in 1912, the IOC then recognised Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I mean, this identity crisis is far-reaching than just the British Isles that we live in and kind of live and breathe it all of the time. So what FIFA did, they created an exception, and that's an exception that stands today, whereby Great Britain and Northern Ireland can compete as four individual nations, which makes sense when you think of the history of the game. It comes from England primarily. Scotland have a very strong arm of developing the game, as do Wales, and not long behind that, Ireland were forming professional football teams because they're linked to the British Isles. So it makes sense that all four teams will run independently. All four teams had international teams in 1908 when the Olympics was held in London.
Yes, and and this has remained an issue going forward, even today, even when you had the 2012 Olympics, didn't you? There was you ended up in the politics of people wanting a GB team in there, but the various football associations being concerned about what that meant for their rights as within the World Cup, isn't it? So it has something of an identity crisis, but they also so they end up in this tournament, and they muster 8 teams, don't they? Theoretically, to play all European, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, so you've got 8 teams, 8 nations, I should say, have sent representation. Well, I say 8, it's only 7, because France said an A and a B. It's worth picking that apart. There's some facts in there that you're going to enjoy. But you've also got, as the 8 teams, 2 from France. You've got Bohemia, which is to become Czechoslovakia, which is now Czechia. So everyone's got an identity crisis, right? And also Hungary, who withdrew from the game. So their opponents, France A, were given a 2-0 win, a walkover, and the Netherlands were given a 2-0 walkover win against Hungary. So France A and Netherlands go into the semi-finals immediately, whilst Denmark have to face off against France B, and Great Britain are playing Sweden in the first round.
This is one of the many interesting parts of it. As you say, Hungary and Bohemia both pull out. Interestingly, they pull out, the way it's described on Wikipedia is they pull out after the draw was made and the referee is chosen.
Yeah.
I think the point they're making is they pulled out quite late, but it does give the impression that, you know, somebody's found that, I don't know, it's Stuart Atwell's refereeing their game and they've decided, no, we're not having that. But I see that you say there was a suggestion it was the funds for the problem. But it does mean that when
the controversies are worth pointing out in general, because obviously it's all about the Summer Olympics. So this is the first Olympic Games ever where the countries would have come out with a flag bearer. So we're quite familiar with seeing the opening ceremony with flag bearers, and every country's being introduced, and we get to see the athletes looking forward to the next 16 days of competition. So this was the first time in 1908 in this brand new stadium, White City. They'd been built, and it's worth pointing out, White City as a stadium was the first purposely built stadium to host an Olympic Games. And at the stadium as well, there was an outdoor swimming pool for the swimming. There was a cycling track, as well as where the football was played, where the athletics track was. And the athletics track wasn't 400 meters, because at that particular moment, the 400-meter athletic track didn't even exist. It was a lot, I think it was a little bit bigger than that in terms of the track that they made. But the controversies are there because Finland were part of the Russian Empire at the time. So they didn't come out with a flag because they didn't want to march under a Russian flag. The Swedish team decided not even to come out at all because the White City organisers had forgot to put the Swedish flag as part of the nation's flags around the stadium. They forgot the Swedish one. So they refused to come out. And the United States flag bearer, a guy called Ralph Rose, obviously still smarting from the independent war that happened quite some time before, and still feeling a bit kind of downtrodden from the British Empire, used to acknowledge the king at the time as well. Controversy was already a right thing, and it's also worth knowing that the Olympic Games, this wasn't a 16-day period. It was 187 days. It started in April and it finished the end of October.
Yeah, well, that's extraordinary, isn't it? Well, it seems really bizarre. Yeah, truly bizarre. So the first round of matches, before you realise that two of the teams had withdrawn, the results feel like there's a mix of close games, you know, Holland beating Hungary 2-0 and France beating Bohemia 2-0. But the other two seem to be like wildcard games.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out those 2-0 wins are both walkovers, so that was in the awards. So.
Exactly. So when I saw that, I thought, those are quite proper games. No, they weren't even games at all. They didn't happen. The other two games, Great Britain, they start with a 12-1 victory over Sweden. I think Pernell gets 4 goals. The goals are pretty well spread across the side there. I think there's 8 different goal scorers, 7 or 8. Denmark, they beat France B 9-0. And keep an eye out. The last of those goal scorers, grabs the ninth goal grabber in that game, is a player called Sofus Nielsen. He'll come on to play quite a role in the next. But let's just bear in mind, against France B, it's taken them 78 minutes to come to the party. When we get to the second round, Denmark draw France A. So, you know, you'd be expecting that one to be a tougher, you know, we've got rid of France B, that, you know, the real game begins here. Nielsen, having waited 78 minutes to score 1 goal, he scored a hat-trick after 6 minutes in this game and goes on to score just the 10 goals in just a 17-1 victory. In fairness to France, they pull one back at 3-0. So go 3-1. You know, they're making a game of it.
I'd love to have the story here in terms of how the players from France B, who have only lost 9-0 to Denmark, are feeling about watching their first team lose 17-1 to Denmark. There must have been some pretty tiny banter on the boat back to France.
Bragging rights, definitely, for France B there. Who would have thought after the 9-0 defeat that they would hold bragging rights, but they did. In the other semi-final, GB drawn to beat the Netherlands 4-0. Well, it seems that's almost the closest run game of the tournament, in fact, with all 4 goals by Henry Stapley, who's one of the kind of the legends of the game. And all these players, as you say, all amateur, aren't they? Many of them remain amateur even throughout the reign of their careers as well.
Yeah, it was very strict at the time that all sports in the Olympic Games were seen as amateur. That was the whole kind of ethos behind the Olympic Games, that the sports were competed by amateurs. Obviously, that's changed massively. Yeah, these boys playing in the 1908 and the 1912 Olympics for Great Britain would have all been amateurs. They would have all gone on to various mixed fortunes to fight in the First World War as well. So a lot of these guys will have links with some kind of action to varying degrees in the First World War.
Yeah. So before we get to the final itself, we'll talk a bit more about this GB side. We should mention the bronze medal match, which is something special.
Definitely.
So fair play. So originally, and again, another sort of insane idea was that the two teams that didn't get to the final would have playoff in an entire consolation tournament in a plate of some kind. 6 teams, that's quite difficult to make work. Obviously, once Hungary, Bohemia drop out, it's perfect. 2 semi-finals and a final. And so, they make the draw. France B will play Sweden, and I think France A will play the Netherlands. Except having lost a combination of 26-1 in their 2 games, let's just go home instead.
They're on the boat back. They've had enough. I mean, they've been completely hammered by Denmark, the same team. And it's worth probably pointing out something. Hopefully, we can explore another point. Denmark has quite a rich history in football, especially in this period. It was incredibly popular, and the Danish teams were quite strong during this period. But yeah, it's fantastic that both French teams have decided that they've had enough. They don't want any more of this Olympic Games. They are on the boat back, and they're not going to participate in their lucky loser semi-final.
So the bronze medal match is, instead of being a plate tournament, is just a single game which the Netherlands win, and we get to the final at White City, which is GB against Denmark. It's a 2-0 win, but this time it's an actual win. It's not a walkover, and actually quite a tightly contested game, I guess.
It's 2-0 because they've been won 2-0 against Denmark, and I think that just shows the quality of the Danish team as well, because the English at this particular moment, and I'm not trying to cause problems, it was an English team, it was an English bunch of amateurs representing Great Britain, were incredibly strong. If there was World Cups going on at this particular moment, which clearly there wasn't, then the English team would have been competing and probably winning World Cups during this particular period. The rest of the world was catching up really fast, but right now, England were the best football team in the world at that particular moment, or they produced the best footballers of the world.
And I guess one of the stars of this side is who actually goes on to score one of the goals in the final, and captain at some stages, Vivian Woodward, isn't it?
Yeah, Vivian Woodward played for Chelsea and Tottenham. A striker that played for both teams, also featured for the England amateurs.
So there we have it. GB, first proper time of kind of entering the Olympics, win the gold medal. And in 1912, they're back to defend their title in Sweden, aren't they, in 1912?
Yeah, they are. So Sweden hold the Olympics, and so Sweden are responsible for, at this particular moment, along with the IOC, for shaping what will be part of the Olympic Games. So there's a special invitation that has to be considered for Great Britain to compete as Great Britain. So we've still got the same complex problem we had in terms of 4 countries within one. When it was in London, it was slightly easier because it was held and organised by the Football Association. In 1912, that's not the case. FIFA are getting more involved now. FIFA have given that special exception that still goes on today. So an exception was created for Great Britain and Ireland to compete as one nation. And I think it was literally the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, that ridiculously long title of the country that we live in. But yeah, they go to Stockholm as the defending Olympic champions.
And there's a few more sides playing this time again, all from Europe. I think there were 13 teams in it this time.
Yeah, there's a few teams that pull out as well. So I think originally there would have been 14 nations. The football is growing. Football is becoming more and more popular. But before the actual games kick off, and these games didn't last 187 days. These were more traditional in terms of the Olympic Games. They lasted just a couple of weeks, and the football was played in that period. I suppose you need to anyway, because in Sweden you've only really got a few weeks of sun, and it's dark all the time, isn't it? I think. So there are a few teams that have to withdraw for various reasons. Primarily, finance is one of the reasons why teams wouldn't go and participate. But football is growing.
Yeah, France, of course, go the whole way this time, and rather than leaving halfway through the tournament, they leave. They just wait for the draw to happen. This has become a thing. We don't like this draw very much, so they pull out.
They did, yes. Yeah, a couple of days before they were supposed to play Norway, they decided that, it wasn't for them. They weren't even getting on the boat this time.
I have a lot of time for this French Olympic side and their approach to this. It's having played for teams who've racked up similar scorelines as they did in 1908. I think there's a time and a place where you think it's just not worth it, is it? So yes, they have pulled out 11 nations that compete at Stockholm, including Russia.
Yeah, Russia are there. Russian Empire in the tournament for the first time. There's a few new ones. Germany as well. The way they structure this one is that they had a first and a second round, but clearly there's 11 participating teams at the point of when they get to the finals. They need to kind of have like a first round with a few buys. Great Britain are one of the teams that goes into the second round automatically. Russia also go into the second round automatically, where they lose to Finland. And Germany face their neighbours Austria, and they also fail at the first hurdle. As did the host Sweden. Sweden go out after extra time. Brilliant concept of football that was well established, and the Netherlands beat the hosts.
So those teams that go out in the first round are then they've definitely, the Olympic Committee are pretty committed to having a consolation tournament or something for the people to do if they come over. So they run another consolation tournament here. This time they managed to get 6 teams to enter, which is a marked improvement. Extraordinarily, Germany play Russia, and in this game, German footballer Gottfried Fuchs matches Sophus Nielsen's 10 goals in a game performance. Germany beat Russia 16-0, and Fuchs scores 10. His last goal is in the 69th minute. So he had 21 minutes to break the record.
Well, the game ended 16-0, and that Fuchs goal in the 69th minute is the 60th goal. They stopped scoring with 20 minutes to go and only embarrassed their Russian neighbours by 16 goals to 0.
So in the main tournament, you're seeing those same sides that did well in the previous years thriving. So the Netherlands, who finished third, Denmark and GB, the winners and the runners up last time, together with Finland. They make it all the way through to the semi-finals. Great Britain beat Finland, Denmark beat Netherlands again, set up a repeat of the GB Denmark final again. And GB come out on top again, don't they?
Yeah, they do. So it's a repeat of what happened in 1908. And once again, the Great British team go on in a bit more of a higher scoring game. So it's 4-2 on this particular occasion. A guy who's called the first goal, Warden. It's Harold Warden. When you look at the players that played in these particular games, you kind of look at their stories, and obviously this happened over 110 years ago, so there's not a massive amount of information on him. But what I love about this guy is that Harold Warden, who was an amateur footballer, played for Bradford and Arsenal as well as England amateurs, when he retired, he went into music and he toured around the world, every continent: China, India, Australia. He also starred in a film. He also went on to make records and songs. So it's just incredible that these guys that have a talent for sport just carry that talent into various other lives once football was finished for them.
So, 1912, GB triumphant again. By the time that the Olympics is next held in 1920, GB had given up on Olympic football. Is that right?
No, they're there. They are there, and at this point, the argument of who should represent Great Britain is really developing into more of a political thing, because Scotland want representation, Wales want representation, Ireland want representation, but clearly there's a divide, there's a split in terms of which players should be picked, because it's a selection process, because the team, Great Britain and Northern Ireland, doesn't exist, doesn't even have a football association. So how do you define a football team and pick its players? But they are there, but they fail to go on and defend their Olympic title. In fact, they lose to Norway in the opening round in the Antwerp Olympics. So yeah, GB went on and participated in the Olympic Games from a men's football perspective in 1948 right through to 1972. And at that point, the horse kind of flogged to death, and you wouldn't see a GB team feature in the Olympics again until 2012, when again the same problems arose in terms of squad selection. The Olympic team featured 18 players that were combined from England and Wales, because I think there was some differences in terms of how the other nations felt representation should be given. I think Scotland actually refused to give any players, but my memory on that's a bit sketchy.
Yeah, so I think there is definitely some Welsh players in the squad there: Craig Bellamy and Ryan Giggs and Aaron Ramsey. Team coached by Stuart Pearce, and they did all right actually. Within that, was all quite fun, but it didn't turn out as as quite as dreamt, and that's the last time it's happened. And we shall wait to see whether there is another set of circumstances under which GB will enter again. They are still, I think, GB are still the joint leaders as things stand in terms of gold medals across the tournament, not in total medals, but I think they've won three along the way, isn't it?
Yeah, the Upton Park one in 1900 was awarded retrospectively to GB in Northern Ireland, which gives them 3, and they're joint with Hungary, and I think Spain have now just added a second, and Brazil won the 2 previous versions, and so they're on 2. But yeah, GB and Northern Ireland are equal record holders for Olympic goals in men's Olympic football,
despite having largely shunned the event. And maybe we could get the brilliant Hallam FC that we talked about last week. Maybe we could categorise the UDEN Cup as an Olympic event and claim a 4th one. Who knows? Okay, well, we should get to ranking this GB Olympic Classics team. We have, as a reminder, 5 categories of greatness, from all-time greats at the top through true greats, touch greatness. Age of greatness are second from the bottom category, and blink of greats last are catch-all kind of thing, which a category which is not necessarily great, but without them we wouldn't be where we are today. It's difficult. I think it's difficult to put them in that category, isn't it? Because we aren't really anywhere today, are we?
No, and it's kind of been rubbed out. I don't think many people realise that Great Britain and Northern Ireland have been so successful at the men's football event in the Olympic Games. It doesn't really get a mention or coverage. In fact, football doesn't even get covered. I mean, if I wanted to watch any of the football in this previous version of the Olympics, I had to go to Eurosport or the Discovery Plus channel to find it, because from a BBC perspective, we cover the Olympics, didn't even get a mention of football, apart from the final, which was super exciting. But we should remember in the 1908 version and the 1912 version, there was no official world tournament for teams competing at an international perspective. FIFA hadn't developed this World Cup. This World Cup was way off. The only internationals that existed were the internationals between England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales, and that was still kind of in its infancy in terms of how that was shaping. I don't think the home nations existed at that particular moment, as much as we want to bring it back. Is that right? Did they not exist at that particular moment? They didn't, did they? I can't remember.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think they did either. And England, as an amateur football team, were incredibly strong. But I struggled to put even though it's an Olympic gold medal, I struggled beyond blinkered greatness, because it really is falling into the bracket of am I bothered greatness. That's not my view. That's how my feeling of the view.
Yes, I think you have to look at the quality of the opposition at that stage and so forth. Denmark are obviously taking things pretty seriously. Here's some teams going home mid-tournament. So I think you maybe edge of greatness. Maybe blinkered is harsh. I'd sort of land somewhere between the two of those. Blinkered greats. Yeah, I suppose that does. Blinkered greats is often we often give that to a team who hasn't actually won anything, but we're sort of quite characterful. This is sort of a reverse, isn't it? It's a team that has won something, but still pretty embryonic at the time. I think I'd be happy. I think blinkered. I think let's go blinkered. I think that makes sense. So we're going to put the GB pioneering Olympic winners going for gold. Blinkered greats. So there we have it. Another of our pre-season friendlies wrapped up. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you so much. And to bookend the brilliant retro TV start we had with Going for Gold, I think I'm going to go off and watch a few episodes of Soap, that incredible sitcom from the late 1970s, early 80s, because I'm just in the mood for a bit of retro TV.
This is too good. I can. I don't know where you are, but you're definitely not in 2024. Billy Crystal, very good in that. There you go.
Yeah. Benson has a spin-off, before Fraser Crane had a spin-off.
Yeah.
The sitcom spin-off. I mean, there's a whole subcategory there, isn't there? The green grass.
Definitely so.
He moved to the country.
Yeah, I mean, largely they are not. They're not very successful. I think people don't really talk about Going Straight as the follow-up to Porridge. Again, not as successful a format. But there you go. Brilliant. Okay, we'll leave it there. We will be back next week with the Thames Valley Royals, another team that didn't. Well, that one really definitely didn't exist, but it so nearly did. So look out for that one next week.